So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan, and this is an update video on the KCM stainless steel crossover tube that I installed on my 2001 Ford F-250 with the Powerstroke diesel 7.3 liter engine. I do have a video on the install of this crossover tube, and at the same time I also did the two HPOP lines, high pressure oil lines, going from the Heui pump to each head. Alright, so if interested, go to my channel, subscribe, and look up HPOP and crossover tube install. Alright, I'm also going to give you guys some insight on some other things I did to this truck, and it kind of goes along with the performance that I felt that I gained with this. So let's get to it. Before we talk about that crossover line, I do have an Edge tuner. I really like this because I've got my transmission temperature, my engine oil temperature, and my exhaust gas temperature on this tuner that I can read on my display all the time. All right, I've got it set. It's 3-stage. I did have it set on the racing, and when I was pulling trailers, I was overheating very badly, spitting black smoke, so I went back to the economy. Granted, that was before I put a bigger air filter on it and before I did my exhaust, so it might be a little different now, but I've got plenty of power with the way it is now. So I do a yearly trip to California pulling my 32-foot fifth wheel, and I've done it for 5 years now. Now, the first year I did it, I didn't have anything done to this truck, and I overheated going up every hill. Spitting black smoke. I'd really have to slow down, go like 30 miles an hour up the hills. Wasn't happy about that at all. That's when I went ahead and got the Edge tuner, okay? And I also did this filter. Now, this is not an air raid system. I had an air raid with a K&N filter on here. I also have had K&Ns on some of my Mustang and other things, and I've gotten contamination past the K&N filter, so I didn't feel it was worth the risk, so I stopped using it, and I have installed this bigger standard style air filter. I will give you the part number on that, so if you want to do that, you can. Now, I grabbed a 8-inch PVC cap, cut it down a little bit, anchored it to the fender, and it sits in here perfectly. I did use some of the air raid box that I had as well, and the air raid inlet here, I use that as well, but you can come up with something like a piece of tube. I believe it's a 4-inch, and then I've seen people just set it in there. I would still recommend doing like the PVC cap to hold it so it's not rubbing around and possibly damaging the outside of the air filter. I've had this on here for like 3 years now, and I haven't had a problem. So like the third year, once I did that air filter and the tuner, I did get a little less overheating, but I still had to slow down going up the hills. So then I decided to do my 4-inch exhaust, and I did that all the way from the turbo out, okay? Granted, my engine does not have a catalytic converter, so that helped out a lot because it is a 2001. So I did turbo back 4-inch exhaust all the way out. That was about 2 years ago that I did that. Again, I did notice a difference in the performance pulling the hills. Able to climb a little bit better, not having to ease off the throttle as much, but I still did overheat over 2 of the major hills. So then 8 months ago is when I installed the crossover tube. Now I'm going to go over the Heui system really fast and the injectors to help you understand the benefit of the crossover tube. Your reservoir for your Heui pump is right here. The pump sits down underneath the fuel filter housing. There is a high pressure oil line coming from the pump going to the passenger side head and from the pump going to the driver's side head, basically creating 2 separate systems for the Heui pressure. So the concept of the crossover tube is to equalize the pressure between the 2 heads to eliminate pressure spikes, creating a smoother running engine to gain power and performance. Okay? The injectors are electronic over hydraulic over fuel, meaning they're electronically controlled, but the injector uses the Heui pressure to push the piston down inside the injector to atomize the fuel going into the combustion chamber, okay? Now, as far as fuel economy goes, guys, I really haven't noticed that drastic of a difference with the crossover tube. Now, I get around 14.5 miles per gallon, give or take a little bit. I know I didn't gain anything more than a half mile per gallon on that. However, when I first started, before I've done anything to this truck, I believe I was getting anywhere from 12 to 13 miles per gallon. So I have gained from the beginning, but as far as the crossover tube, I really haven't gained that much with just that. However, performance-wise, this last trip to California, I was heavier than I had ever been pulling my trailer. We went for 2 weeks instead of the normal week, so we had more food, more fluids, more stuff. We also had friends of ours coming. We had some of their stuff in our trailer, and I had the least amount of overheating, and I had better throttle response and more power pulling the hills than I ever had before. So performance-wise, I definitely think it helped out, and I would recommend this product. As far as fuel economy, I don't really think you're going to get a drastic change in that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.